Приветствуем всех. Следующий доклад у нас проводит Михаил Карпов, глава мультимедиа разработки ВКонтакте, Россия.
Всем доброго дня, рад вас здесь видеть, рад, что вы заглянули на мой рассказ. Меня зовут Михаил Карпов, я руковожу мультимедиа-продуктами, большим департаментом ВКонтакте. В него входит видеосервис, в него входит музыкальный сервис, в него входит лайвстриминговый сервис. Сегодня мы поговорим про скорость. Поговорим о том, как команда достигает скорости на примере ВКонтакте. Поскольку скорость очень важна для бизнеса и нужно понимать, как двигаться. Я расскажу некоторые наши примеры. Вкратце расскажу о компании. ВКонтакте многомиллионная компания, это огромный рынок, это 96 миллионов наших пользователей из России, СНГ, Бразилии и других стран, которые пользуются ВКонтакте. 5 миллиардов сообщений ежедневно отправляются. Это сумасшедший объем информации и коммуникации, которые происходят между нашими пользователями. За 1 секунду наши сервера получают 1 миллион запросов. А сама база кода является гигантской. Это порядка 6 миллионов строк кода, с которыми мы работаем. Говоря про скорость и про продукты ВКонтакте, это не только мобильное приложение, это не только сайт, на которым пользуются миллионы пользователей. Это также мобильный оператор VK Mobile, над которым мы работаем. Это также десктопные приложения, которые у нас есть, как для мессенджера, так и другие, например, для лайв-трансляций. Говоря про скорость, у нас в день происходит порядка сотни изменений, которые видят пользователи. И каждый час мы делаем релизы, донося наши изменения и улучшения продуктов до пользователей.
In short, let us tell about the team. Huge services in VK, and it is a small team that is responsible for it. We have 100 of staff, and the core of the team is in St. Petersburg at the downtown part of the city, and all the developers work in the HQ. We do not have distributed operations because it makes communication between the product teams difficult. And talking about the staff, the average age is 26. We have one of the designers 18, and the record has been set again. We have somebody who's 60 years old, and correction, was 16 years, and we are happy to see young and boys. That's the headquarters office and part of the team that are doing the products. Most of the staff are the winners of the different contests and competition in programming when still studying at school. So let us tell you how we do multi-million services with a small team and make improvements and updates real quick. So first of all, we have cross-functional teams and cross-functional developments, and all the members of the team work in different specialties. When we refer to content developer, most of the front-end developers can write a back-end. So the guys can switch over from one specialty to another, and it is important for us. We believe that all the members of the team should learn and know to do something more that what their terms of reference are about. The developers do not only front-end but back-end. Service owners are responsible not only as product managers globally, but they are also responsible for managing projects. In some cases, they are responsible for monetization of products and for marketing. Second, one of the major components of moving fast ahead, it is the contribution of the developers into the product, not just writing the code, but the developers' influence on what the final product would be, and the opinion of the developers is important for the company and for the product. And it's a regular story when the leaders of the service approach developers and they say, that's what we want to do. And the developers say, no, we are not going to do that. And explaining then, deliberating figures could be shown and the expertise of the market could be shared. And together with the service leader, they will make better products, because developers in our team have a high influence and authority in our team. Talking about small functionality, and it is important to deal with that functionality. The developers can do something from square one to the very end. They can identify a demand at the market, getting the information from the feedback channels, and by means of the design consultants, they can do the design, then they can do the testing, and they can deploy it for production without involving somebody else from the team. And it is very important to put the things into the pipeline, because when you handle the products, there are large things, large chunks of functionalities that should be done, and those large chunks of work involve many people, but there is also a tail of the functionality which should be developed as well. Such an approach is good. The developers understand a demand, a necessity, and they can release it right away. And it might take the developer 1 hour to provide a certain functionality. Another story, it's about communication. And we don't like email in our company. We virtually do not use it. There's a minimum of meetings in our company. They're not taking much of the time. All the culture of communication is based on personal communications, and the team are located pretty close to one another. And it is quite easy to approach a person and explain things. And the culture is based on chats. We make use chats in the VK. And chats do everything. There's a chat on bugs. And if you come across a bug, or the user has sent you information about the bug, you can send that information in the chat, and the person who is responsible for functionality will respond to that. And we have a similar chat on ideas, and if someone comes across an idea of what it is possible to improve, it might not be related to the service that the developer is working on. That idea could be uploaded to the chat, and that idea could be absorbed, and it could be put into the view chat. And we do not try to accumulate all the ideas. The idea should be accepted and implemented, or we close it, and we might revert to it somewhere later when we realize that there is a demand for a certain particular thing. As I said, speed is important for us at the competitive market with so many users, and we need to have retention, to retain that audience, to respond to the demands, and we should develop our products real fast. When you're moving fast, you can make mistakes. You understand, you can tumble over when you're running, and if you speed over, your path could be even more dangerous. So you should find a balance between readiness to make mistakes and to accelerate the motion of your team. We are prepared to accept, to tolerate mistakes, errors, to move ahead. But it is important to have lessons learned, and it is necessary to handle mistakes so that the users will not notice them in our services. A few things about errors and blunders. Of course, it is important to prevent mistakes, and that's what the unit tests are for, the integration tests are for, and we also have a testing team that do the manual and automatic testing. And another important thing is code review. We believe that every developer should be a tester for the functionality that they develop. There's no point in outsourcing the functionality for testing if the developer has not tested it himself or herself. That's what about prevention. Another part, second part, is early warning of the errors. Every day we have 2% of new orders who will be either lucky or not lucky, depending on what functionalities they would address. So we analyze the code for the basic metrics for the 2%, how different they are from the other 98%, and we draw conclusions whether we should deploy it later or introduce any changes. And if there is a bug, a mistake, the users will tell us about it, and the new 2% will understand that the bug is there, and the other 98% will not suffer from that.
We also monitor databases, and we work closely with our support team, which is the first line of contact, receiving all requests from our users, who are our most valuable source of live feedback. Next, about correcting all those mistakes, where we roll out the code fast, where your team moves very fast. This is a story about automatic notifications which we receive. If any of the metrics differ from something being 5 minutes ago, or from the metrics from weeks ago, automatic watchdogs are triggered, sending us the messages into the chats of product managers, of technical engineers, so that we can look where the trouble is. If there's a global mistake, that's a global error, we need to be able to roll back the error fast. In 2 to 3 minutes, this is what we can do. Coming back to how this team is structured, I've told you about cross-functional developers and managers. Many of the team are not fixed currently. And every quarter, we choose the goals, choose the directions which we are going to develop further. A quarterly goal can be like newsfeed and videos, and a whole team is being redistributed, reallocated to the key directions. After 3 months, we'll look at the changes we've made. Did we get fast enough ahead of the market to stop temporarily working, to pause working on this, this sphere, and then switch to another thing? So after a quarter, we can decide we've developed the videos enough, but continue working on the news feed. And instead of the videos, music will be our next focus point over the next quarter. this is the story about cross-functional teams. They are mixed tasks specifically. We could also have an urgent change we should react to, like something happening externally. And this makes us reassemble the team on the fly and reallocate it to these important tasks. Speaking about the small team, as I said, we are only 100 or so people. We are not able to do everything, every technology. We can do it, but it takes too much time. So we outsource technologies regularly. We use open source technologies. We work teams from our holding, because Vkontakte belongs to the Mail.ru holding company. There are a lot of teams who also work on the same technology, so we work together to cut our time and cost. If a technology is too complicated for us and too time-consuming for us to make, we either open source it or launch it together with another in-house team. While working on our own solution for that, to have a temporary solution in the meantime. Actually, our team is much larger than the 100 people which we have in-house. We have 20K testers. These are not the best beta testers, full-time beta testers, which is common in other companies, so that the company can look at the metrics during the rollout. Now, this is another story. We recently launched a testing platform where every user who is a tester and has the necessary testing skills join this program and start testing our functionality. So the user, he or she, receives our update earlier, has a bug tracker he or she is working with. He or she has support for this bug tracker for all the issues, thus making the user an external tester, bringing us 12K testers, people who actually test them and only use them or look at them. They are scattered over 7 countries and test 13 VK products every day. But these are not only metrics you need in the product. You also need to know how to interpret them. If you only look at the metrics, sometimes you won't be able to understand why this or that change in the product happened. You rolled out the functionality and say one of the metrics decreased, and you cannot always explain why people behave like this. We have a system to work with our community. 2 communities, VK communities, 4.5 million users in one of them, people reading about new ideas and proposing their ideas, and another community, Live Express. As a hardcore community, it's basically a what's new log of every change rolled out in VK. Developers are very immersed into the product and have the responsibility. Immediately after the release, the community, well, the developer can look up the commands in the community or understand what have we done correct, and maybe we should be developing even further on that. So we can see that people propose a small change of the commands under this what's new log. And we can often see that a developer answering to the user that he already coded them and just roll this out as required. So now it's not only important to listen to the users, it's also important to give feedback to your users as well. How to make it in VK? There is a topic in the community where users propose new features, what they want us to do, what they want us to correct. A team sums it all up, and every Friday provides a report on what the users most wanted this week. The product team and the development team analyzes feedback, take into account, and once monthly, the VK team makes a report for our users. We tell the users what we have made, what the users asked us. So it increases trust and increases the readiness to give us useful feedback. 5 points are very important to summarize this up. How do you work in a small team? The first point is that responsibility of the developers in the first line who contribute the most to the quality of the product, and other employees as well. Next, the mistakes should be possible. You should account for mistakes, and you should know that there are people who will correct this mistake if it happens. The third point is quick feedback. It is not only the feedback from the users, but also feedback from us to the users, so they feel that their feedback is a two-way feedback. Fourth point, that the teams are not fixed. The team do not work on one project until it's 100% complete. Like 2 teams start, and only after doing all the useful stuff, starts doing something else. The teams could switch and help another team and provide all the necessary resources to that. We share the resources. Teams are mixed, and we are constantly strengthening the areas where we need more support. Fifth point is the controlled growth. We do not grow. This is our rule. 100 people for a gigantic service are a small team, but we try not to grow too much. So we hire only tasks specifically, only if we understand that the current employees cannot handle all the workload. These are my opinions, my suggestions, my way of handling this work, this production. I hope this was useful for you, and I hope you can also share your opinion or share your tips and tricks after this talk. Thank you very much. Questions, please. Thank you very much, Mikhail. Your questions. Hello. Thank you very much for the talk. I have a question concerning the mobile app. Do you develop it in-house or do you outsource it? And you've also told about the speed. How fast are the changes in the web app reflected into the mobile app? And what do you do if the teams of the web team does not agree with these changes from the web team? So yes, we do it in-house. Web is advancing more rapidly. You've probably seen it. We want to speed up delivery of new changes to mobile devices as well. We're working on it. there could be discrepancies between the teams, not only between the mobile app and the web interface, but we could also have different opinions inside the team. This is solved quite easily. We respect everyone in our team, and we can discuss it anytime. You could discuss it personally. And besides, there are metrics which we can look at and base our decision on. Next, we can check some of our hypotheses in the web, because the changes are done more easily. And if they prove to be good functioning, we could then transfer them to the mobile app. Or we can do an intermediary stage via our mobile web version. Hello, thank you very much for the talk. I have 3 questions at once. The first one, if you dynamically change and mix-strike teams, how do you conserve the lead of the team and the connections between the members of the teams? How do you retain them? The second question, I've forgotten the third question, so it will be only the second. If the developers respond to the users quickly, there may be a situation that the developers promise something and the users start to push for a certain functionality which is not very useful or not very feasible for the product. Is there a specific code or a moderator who regulates the replies from the developers so there are no conflicts concerning this? Well, the developer team shares a common vision, that's it. Most of the team has been working in VK for a long time already, so it's not the first time they encounter uneasy questions, uneasy situations, or the situations where you should not promise anything, actually. Most of the time, our guys reply to technical questions, so to clarify what browser this bug has appeared and so on, or just to ask him or her why she or he wants this functionality. We never announce anything in advance. We collect users' feedback, we ship the functionality, but we never promise, because it's always a tough one. You may encounter some difficult situation and you may not be able to roll this out at the very end, so this will be unfair, right? The first question was about people changing from one team to another. Currently we have a flat structure in VK. All of the employees are at the same level. So basically, there is no lead who is responsible for that. He may be solving a specific task, but then being a lead on working on one task, and then when she or he changes to another task, it could potentially be an ordinary team member. So this is not a crown that a lead receives after getting the team lead. And you know, the developer needs some variety. You've been working on a service, you've solved some technical challenges, and you want to try something new to move forward. And this is exactly the way you can try different things. In most of the services and products, we have a core team, right? So 1 or 2 developers. Speaking about the payment system, for instance, it is quite hard to change to change the functionality without knowing how it all functions and works. So all the nuances and peculiarities. So there is a core lead for this, but for all other teams, people can be mixed quite easily between them. Hello, I wanted to ask. You've told that if good feedback from the people from the VK clients. But as people and IT people normally say, users normally do not know what they want. I've been using VK for a while, and there are minor updates sometimes, or major updates, under the motto, bring me back the wall. So my question, when you and your team understand that you must make a major update, why is this? Why do you do this major release? You understand that you will need a new feature, or you just see that the hype is reducing and you need to explode a new information bomb to attract the attention again. There are major and minor updates, that's it. If we launch a new service which has never existed before, this is what we plan ourselves. We look at our metrics. We look at what it can change globally. And large changes like this are rolled out slowly. We collect the feedback only after they have seen it. Like take the new redesign of VK. We rolled this out over 6 months, basically. So we collected first the feedback of several percent of people we rolled this out on, and then gradually more and more. And it's quite clear that our product is really huge, and a lot of functionality we have accumulated over 10 years of lifetime. And the users normally ask for small updates, the small things they want to correct or they want to use in a different way. And this is where feedback comes in first place. We cannot evaluate it in metrics. This change, this small minor change, will not influence our metrics, the number of likes, the number of messages the users write. It will influence the usability, but it's very hard to evaluate. So those legacy features is well, basically only the question of rational decision. Maybe if it seems rational, a developer can just code it on his own and then roll this out in 1 hour or so.
I don't know whether it's quite possible that it's not a pleasant question. It's about music and multimedia. When some commercial decisions are taken, definitely all the pros and cons are assessed, and there's advertising in all the services, and in VK as well, and there was advertising to the left. And quite recently, the advertising, the commercials are included into the music. I stopped listening to the music right away. Well, what's the justification? I don't know. What's the reasoning behind using advertising in musics? Did you calculate the risk? I don't know, additional profit generated, or what's the payback of including commercials into music? As a matter of fact, you have 2 questions. It's about the music and how are the risks assessed when major changes are done, and when the decisions are taken, when some things might hurt our users. So talking about music, there is a number of contracts. We cannot disclose them, but we cannot comply with those, and that I can stop at that. Talking about music, as far as the risks are concerned, I can say if the changes are global, related to advertising, commercials, related to audio, then we will take a test group for a few months and we try to see what will be happening, what people will be subscribing, and what will stop using the service, or will be using the service less frequently. And then we draw conclusions whether we are prepared to do some major modifications, redesign, or introduce some kind of commercials. And our approach is similar when we think not about revving up or increasing the commercial, but reducing it. And if there are negative metrics based on the pressure on the users, then we do a similar test. But we say remove or cut back on the number of the shows of the commercials. So that kind of approach is a two-way approach, twofold approach. Anything else? You have mentioned that you are not willing to improve the number of the subscribers and the number of the staff, and you said that there are some developers that they develop on their own. How come? Was that that kind of approach from the very beginning, and you cannot change it? Or what are the benefits of that kind of approach? We are not willing to change it. Why? Do you have an experience of working for a giant company? Like previously, I've been working for Yandex. There are 8,000 people and over there, and it is a bit smaller than Yandex. When the team is growing, and in the past 2 years, we have doubled the staff. We were 60, now we are 120. And it affects the communications negatively. There are many newcomers, new people, and the people are sitting farther away from one another. Bits and pieces of information are lost. It is hard to imagine that the developers on their own would go elsewhere. Somebody will forget about something, or fail to explain something, and the volume of communication is lost. You cannot employ super talented staff, and the average, when you hire people, the average level is going lower. So that's why we do not try to increase the head count if there's no need. And so if any of the staffers would like to take up some responsibilities, we are happy about it. It's much better than when we employ somebody else from the outside, because if it's a newcomer, it will take some 6 months for the person to become working efficiently, and before the other employers before the other employees start spending their time on the newcomer. And we need to reserve all the time of the employees to work on the products, which are much more now. So the difficulty is that when there are newcomers, you will have to handle them. Yes, when there are more people, it is the difficulty in the communication and the reduction of the quality of the staff. But if everything will be communicating well and we're getting along well, it would be good for you. It would be good, but I don't think it's possible for a team, say, of 300 men. Thanks for your talk. And what's the rotation? Do many people leave, or do most of the employees come and they stay? We have a high rate of retention, a low rotation. I know some 3 people who have left for the past 2 years, but they left for abroad. VK does not have an office overseas, so if people would like to live elsewhere in some other country, well, they quit working for VK. Thank you all. That was the very last question, and you can ask questions on one-to-one. Thank you.
Hi, we're at 4C with another one of our speakers. Hello, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Leszek Szczepański. I'm a senior gameplay programmer at Guerrilla Games in Amsterdam.
Great, so tell us, let's talk games. What's your favorite video game?
Neverwinter Nights.
That's an awesome choice. What's the very first game you've ever played?
I don't remember. I mean, I had an original Nintendo, so I played like Contra or Mario. But the first game I actually remember playing well was Doom. I was way too young to play it.
That's some time ago. How did you get into the industry?
Actually, I was a little bit lucky. I was studying at the time, and like in between universities, so to speak. And my sister said, "Hey, there's this company doing games. Would you be interested in applying?" I applied, and I got a job in mobile industry. And for 5 years, I did mobile games until I figured I'm done and started doing console games.
Not bad. But if you had the chance to go back to the time and give yourself one advice, what would it be?
Don't worry about school, just make games.
You hear that? That's what I'd wanted. So tell us, what do you like and hate about the modern industry?
Okay, so my perspective might be a little bit weird because a lot of people complain about the crunch, working conditions, so on and so forth. I've been really lucky where I work right now because the working conditions are really, really good. The only thing I can complain about the AAA industry is that even being like in a senior position, you don't have that much control over what you're building. And you have dreams, you have things you want to build, but you're still like part of the process. If you're like in a 200, 300 person team, you would like to make a bigger impact. On the other hand, we are building amazing things. It's wonderful to work like 5 or 7 years on a project, and after seeing all these prototypes, bugs, failed builds, and so on and so forth, see the thing on YouTube or on the disk and actually playing out more than you had imagined, and much more than you could have built on your own.
Well, speaking of building things on your own, imagine you had full creative financial freedom over your own project. What would it be then?
Oh, I'm a horrible nerd, so I would just create like an isometric role-playing game. So something like Fallout or Baldur's Gate. So something like that. I'm not sure about the setting, maybe something futuristic, but like a really hardcore isometric role-playing game. That would be something I would do on my own.
Speaking of futuristic, where do you see the industry going in the future, like in 10 years' time? Maybe some breakthrough technology?
Oh, I'm not really sure. I mean, we've been talking about the end of PC gaming, end of console game for years now, and it didn't happen. So I think that there will be small revolutions coming on, like new technologies, new ideas, but we will be still sort of standing on the shoulder of giants. So PlayStation will be there, Xbox will be there, Nintendo will be there, and there will be a lot of stuff, and we will continue growing. Consoles will continue growing, PC will continue growing, mobile will continue growing, and new technologies like VR, AR, or God knows what else will also continue growing. That's what I think, at least.
Is crossplay going to become a thing, you think?
Sorry?
Is crossplay going to become a thing?
Like between different consoles? Or?
Yes.
I think so. I mean, there's only benefit to that, right? And it already happened before with different games. So I think it will happen, but it's not up to people like me to make it happen.
Well, speaking about tech, we have VR, AR, and lots of amazing stuff. Do you think these new input methods will eventually replace conventional controllers or not?
I definitely don't think they will replace. I think they will be their own thing in their own right. So people were talking about mobile replacing normal games, and that didn't happen. People were talking about mobile replacing even handhelds. And yes, the handheld market is so much smaller, but it's still there. I mean, how many people bought the Switch and walk around with a Switch, right? So I think VR and AR will be just another market. More people are coming into gaming and they want other ways to play.
Yeah, definitely. We're trying to see into the future here at 4C. And what's your opinion on the conference so far?
It's really nice. It's actually well organized. I'm surprised that organizers can manage all this herd of cats, like speakers and the guests and everyone, so it's going quite well. I haven't seen a lot of talks just yet, but I looked at the talk list. It seems pretty interesting. There's definitely some knowledge which I'll be able to take out of this, and I'm looking forward to that.
Any particular speech you're maybe looking forward to?
To be frank, I'm so freaking out about my own talk that I haven't figured out this specific one I want to see, but I made like a small list. I circled in our brochure, so I'll be looking into what I would really want to see.
If you heard your own talk from the audience, what question would you like to ask yourself?
Whoa, that's a difficult question. I'm not really sure. I'm kind of hoping that I'm giving all the information that I'm supposed to give. So I hope there won't be that many things unclear that will require more questions. I'll be talking a lot about component-based architecture, and maybe that will be useful to elaborate on that, why Gorilla started with component-based architectures, why everybody's doing it pretty much. Maybe something like this.
Well, hopefully you find the needed answers, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hi, we're here with one of our speakers. Hello, please introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, I'm Alex Babko, Head of Global Special Projects at Wargaming.
So Alex, tell us, what have you got to show us?
Well, today and these days at 4C, like the world's best game designers, game developers are sharing their experience with everyone here at 4C. And Wargaming also introduces our best practices here, and today we show to all the attendees the new augmented reality experience that Wargaming has recently built. So basically we've taken the Sturmtiger from World of Tanks to real life, so that more people around the world can experience it, can interact with it, and that's basically what happens behind our backs. So those guys with HoloLens and with the Google Tango device are seeing the future because they see the Sturmtiger here in the at the conference, but all people around them who don't take the devices, they basically can't see that, but those guys are already seeing future.
Sounds amazing, but how does it work?
Technically, it's a Unity-based application, but available on the Microsoft HoloLens and on Google Tango device. But from the storytelling standpoint, it's part of wargaming approach towards preserving history, so that we take the model from World of Tanks, which is really unique in real world, so only 2 Sturmtigers left in our world. But with help of augmented reality, we bring it to as many people as possible so that they can explore this masterpiece of engineering.
So basically we can relive history with this device, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. So this experience is already available at the Tank Museum in Bovington, as well as in the Museum of History of Great Patriotic War in Minsk. And we will bring it even closer to other locations as well.
Pretty cool. Can we see how it works?
Yeah, definitely. So we can now pick up the Microsoft HoloLens and see what's inside, as well as maybe show to the watchers some screenshot from the tablet, where you can also experience the augmented reality.
I'm standing near the Sturmtiger, a tank that has been recreated in augmented reality. It's so near I can almost touch it, except I can't because it isn't there. But I can clearly see it, I can see into every little detail of it. And there's actually a guide telling me about the story, the history of this great vehicle. I hope you can see it on the screens. This is truly amazing technology. This is the future of museums and probably a lot more. This is amazing.